starting out, we don't even know who our franchisee, who our target audience is, who are right. What does a right franchise look like to us, right? We just know somebody is excited about it. They have passion for our business. They pass the credit check. They have the money. They love the company. They're probably a client or a former customer of the business. Or worse, Mike, they're a family member or friend and wants to do this. That's, as I talk to so many founders over the past year and a half, I've interviewed probably close to 200 founders in the past year and a half. And again, we talk about, how did you find your first dozen franchises? You know what they tell me? Friend, family member, or customer. How did you even know they were going to be any good? I didn't. And you didn't even know what to teach them.
Yeah, unfortunately, the vetting process for a franchisor is not taken very seriously. Let me tell you something, Frank. I was selling franchises from $50,000 to $1.5 million. I sold Europe as a master for $1.5 million. But the vetting process, I just didn't, they come up and said, hey, we've got the money. We'll write you the check for $1.5 million. That deal I negotiated was very, very simple. You put $600,000 down, and then you pay the rest within the next year. Okay, they agreed with that. That's great, because I vetted the heck out of these guys, and I want to make sure that they were who they said they were. So Just because I talk to a friend and I say, hey, I'm looking for a franchise, Frank, I'll tell you this. I did the franchise thing. I worked with somebody that said, hey, I need somebody to work the company to, help people find the right franchise. I get calls from somebody that says, I want to be a UPS franchise. And I said, okay. And I said, so let's go over some things. Let's talk about what your net worth is. Let's talk about what you got liquid. Let's go through all this. Well, I've got $25,000 in the bank, and I've got about $5,000, to help me get through. Think about that for a second. Okay, now I could tell you 1,000 stories like that. That's what woke me up and said, I just don't like this business model. It doesn't make sense to me. What if I were to convince somebody to go into a franchise? You know as well as I do. Let me stop there. You know as well as I do. You better be passionate about your company. If it's I-9 Sports, if it's Payless Car Rental, or if it's my company today or your company today, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, if you don't have some knowledge about what you're getting into, some business knowledge, I throw my hands up and I wish people all the success, because I know what path that's going to take them down.
Yeah. I always tell people the reason why you have to have passion for it is because in any business, you're going to have some really bad times. You're going to struggle at times, but if you love it and you have real passion for it, that's what gets you through those tough times. If you're already only halfway in and you got 1 foot out already, and then you run into a struggle, you're going to quit. You're not going to hang in there.
That's right. That's right. No, you're absolutely right. Now, you and I have been there, done that. And see, that's something that, our years of experience and our successes and our failures are so invaluable to anybody that's starting a franchise today, or better than that they've got 5 franchises. They brought on 5 franchises. 4 of them they probably shouldn't have brought on. They've got one good one, and they're not sure how to grow their business, right?
Right. I think that happens way too often. Mike, let me ask you this. Since we have so many, our audience is made up of people looking to buy a franchise, people who are looking to franchise their company, let's talk specifically about emerging franchisors for a moment. About what do you think are some of the most common mistakes they make early on, besides the fact that they're awarding franchises to people that probably shouldn't have a franchise?
I have a pyramid that I've been using that I put up 40 years ago at Payless. I'm looking at it to the right side of me over here. And that pyramid is broken up to 3 parts: foundation, cornerstones, and framework. You have to have a strong foundation. What's in that foundation? Well, I'll keep it simple for you because we don't have a screen share, but I'll just tell you, I do everything this way when it comes down to a business. So as an example, you have to have, we talked about a business plan. Okay. So we know that. What's the strategy? What's the goals? What's the vision? Let's talk about leadership. Those are the 5 components of part of that foundation. What are the cornerstones? Capital. You and I both know that if you don't have capital, you don't have the funding, and I'll take a side note for a second. That parking reservation software that we built at the national level in 2009, the Great Recession, we started that business. Everybody thought we were nuts. Who's going to reserve to park a car? Right? My wife and I were the only ones that knew that there was something big there. And look at today, how many apps park at Tampa Airport, Atlanta Airport, you can reserve in advance. So that vision is really, really important. You have to believe in what you're doing. So you've got to have capital. Well, we had $380,000 on credit card and 2 mortgages on our house. Would you call that all in?
Right. Yeah, I'd say you didn't have a plan B for sure, and you were all in.
You were all in, right? Okay, then your product and service. This is part of your cornerstones. Capital, product and service, stellar team, not just a team, a stellar team. And you got to have the market. That's your foundation at the bottom of that pyramid. And then above that is the framework that goes all the way to the top. And the top of that pyramid is growth. And that is how I try to instill that into clients, potential clients. I even do some pro bono stuff just to be able to get their mindset to understand that if you're going to get into this business, if you do not have structure, you are going to be challenged with your company. I just try to be as transparent. Do they like to hear that? I don't think they do. I'm not even sure they understand it. But I really try to be as transparent as possible based on what? A lot of experience.
Well, I'm looking at the cornerstones. Number one, capital. I know that many franchisors are undercapitalized because of the guidance they're given on how much they really need to franchise their business is off the mark. Secondly, the team. I experienced this myself, Mike. I had my original team that helped support the franchisees were the same people who helped run my business. And that's natural. Most franchisors just take their team with them and say, hey, we were running our sports league or we're running our pizza shop. Now you're in the business of franchising and support franchisees. And that's a completely different skill set, right? And then the third one is the market. I think a lot of franchisors start out, they don't even know what markets they should be in. They know the market that they were in where they had their own corporate location, but they have no idea what markets look like the markets where they've had success.
That's very true. So that fourth cornerstone on there is important, which is product and service. You either have to have a great product, like I've got a client right now that's got an incredible product. They have potential of being $1 billion company if they want to be, right? Or a service. Service is a little bit more difficult. So, but that you got to have that foundation of those 9 blocks on that triangle before you even think of going to what? Let's talk about revenue, infrastructure, delegation. You're not delegating anything. Get your foundation set, and then you take it from there.
Yeah. And I want to add one more thing on the product and service. I know I made this mistake, and many emerging founders I talk to do the same thing. They focus on training their franchisees on how to operate the actual duties of the business instead of the business itself. So instead of teaching people how to run, own, and operate a pizza business, they're spending more time teaching people how to make a pizza.
Yep. No, you're right. No, I can relate to that in a big way.
And I did the same thing with my sports leagues. I was teaching people like how to do a schedule when they had no idea that they were in the business of management, marketing, operations, finance, and technology. And sports was just a vehicle they were using in any business.
You say something right there, and I've said this for years. Let's just say that I'm a VP of a company and I'm done with the corporate world and I want to get into business for myself. I kind of like to take a little shortcut, and I want to join a franchise system. In that VP position, I'm not sure what that individual did, if it's VP of sales, VP of marketing, VP of operations, whatever it is. That person thinks, and I'm not knocking anybody or any at all. I'm just saying, I'm being realistic here. That person understands what they did in that company, and they were around a lot of other people as the business was being built. That's fine. But the fact is that just because they were VP of something does not mean that they know how to do accounting. They know, let's just say VP of sales. They don't know how to do marketing. They don't know how to do operations. They don't know how to do relationships. They don't know how, there's a lot of things, you know as well as I do, what it takes to run a company today. Just one company, you know, but now let's advance that. Okay, I can run this company. Now let's franchise this thing. I can franchise this. Here's the kicker. You're going to go into business with complete strangers, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Complete strangers. You don't know anything about them. You don't know their work ethic. You don't know you don't know anything about that person other than what you did in the vetting process. But that doesn't mean that, these strangers, a lot of strangers, if you got hundreds of locations like I had, that these franchisees are going to, grow into something to where it's going to support the brand and support the growth of the company. Franchising is not as simple as I think people may think it is.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.